हाँ शफान, I'm sorry, really sorry. हुआ क्या था? मैंने एक एक्सपेरिमेंट ट्राई कर रहा था. This is coming up on Saturday. This is part 3. And the conference starts on 18th May. That's Ken Cloke's birthday. So that'll be the inaugural address, which is he's talking about war in Ukraine, lessons for mediators. On my LinkedIn post, you'll find the write-up that he's put out. So have a look at that. If you want to participate in the conference, please get in touch. Hi, Shafan.
Ji, connection. I hope I'm audible and visible.
Absolutely.
My voice is okay.
Salam alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Walaikum assalam. Vikram bhai.
मेरा ना एक्सपेरिमेंट काम नहीं किया, इन द सेंस थोड़ा सा टेक्निकल चीज ट्राई कर रहा था मैं कि वो थोड़ा सा उसमें एक कुछ एंट्री करनी थी, वो मैंने ठीक तरह करी नहीं थी. सो आई एम रियली सॉरी, थोड़ा सा लेट हो गया. तो क्या हाल है आपके?
All good, alhamdulillah, all well, by the grace of Almighty and with your prayers, good wishes, all well.
How is the weather? ये बताओ.
Weather is pleasant. परसों तो बहुत जबरदस्त, it was gusty, बहुत जबरदस्त हवाएं थी, काफी डिस्ट्रक्शन हुआ, पेड़ वेड़ सब गिर गए, सारा फल जो आया था पेड़ों में तो वो भी डिस्ट्रॉय हो गया काफी. But overall the weather is quite pleasant.
नहीं, पर अभी सीजन किस चीज का है?
अभी तो it's we are just coming to an end of the spring, moving towards summer now.
So now what, the plums and the peaches and all, they start now?
Yeah, they do. अभी नहीं, अभी तो टाइम है, अभी तो फ्लावरिंग है, जो फ्रूट आ गया था पेड़ में, मगर गस्ट जो थी विंडी था परसों, उसकी वजह से थोड़ा नुकसान हुआ फ्रूट का. अभी इट्स ओके, वी आर यूज्ड टू इट. ये सीजन तो है ही बारिशों का मौसम.
कब कश्मीर कब बुला रहे हो? मैं तो कभी देखा नहीं कश्मीर.
मैंने तो हमेशा आपको इनवाइट किया. whenever you come, you are most welcome at my place.
Imagine, देखो कितना दूर है. It's not far away also, but how much time? Or flight must be what, 1 hour or something? कितना?
Normally it's 1 hour. Don't go via, even less, I think. So
imagine, 1 hour away and haven't been able to go there. This year it has to happen, whatever happens. But connectivity, internet connectivity has to be good, Shafan, so that what all these shows keep taking place.
Ji, bilkul. The best for your shows. You're doing very good work, and mediation is a subject. The topic that you have chosen, especially, is my heart and soul of it. That's very touching also, and that's very close to my own concept of mediation. That's why I prefer mediation. At the adversarial part of it, I'll just discuss that part also. Why it's very why I prefer mediation to the adversarial part of it. What brings me closer to this concept of yours, the mediation. And this is basically even present in our religious systems also, in our cultures also, as you have already discussed in all your sessions before.
No, but Shefan, what we'll do is also part of the conference, I want to discuss in terms of religion also, what does Islam say? Because we've had some discussions in the last symposium, but I think we need a more detailed understanding to be able to distinguish between arbitration and mediation. I think that's also important.
Yeah, exactly. We did have, in fact, the last session that I had, I did touch upon it.
Yeah.
But basically, the Islamic concept is so, people think that all this militants, it's just a militant religion, which is not the case, in fact. Because people think that the Muslims, they are very aggressive in nature, which is a misconception. And that would have been cleared to a very great extent if these aspects of our religion would have been brought forth. What promotes brotherhood, what promotes the idea of togetherness, what promotes the idea of coexistence, those ideas have, I think, not been put before the world in a proper perspective.
I'll tell you, Shifan, I have my view on this. My view is that you have to follow the Quran. Being a
Right,
Muslim means you have to follow the Quran. I'm very
right.
clear about that. And to say, look, I am born into a Muslim family, so now I have become a Muslim, I still feel we need to discuss that, because if you don't follow the Quran, I mean, you're drinking alcohol and you're saying I'm still a Muslim, I don't think that's the correct approach. I think the people have to follow it. And if they follow it, definitely there can be no problem. All these things that you're talking about, these.
Yesterday, I was just reading something when I came across a quote of Ibn Sina. What that quote says, some people have a lot of religion, but they don't have any wit. While some people have a lot of wit, they don't have any religion. So somewhere there's a balance between this wit and religion. It's an intrinsic part of me. My faith is intrinsic to me, but that should not prevent me from coexisting, from a harmonious existence with all the rest. And
No, but
it's
yeah, but no, look, I'm saying there is no conflict. I can also be a Muslim if I read the Quran and I follow it. I can also be a Muslim. There is no concept of what we done is basically every religion. Some people start thinking we are the guardians of this religion. Now we will decide what has to be done. We will tell you what you have to do, and then they interpret it the way they want to interpret it. That's the
that's
biggest
right.
issue.
That's
Because I
right.
tell biggest Shafan, the biggest issue is, which is a problem even with Hinduism, that in Islam, Quran is written in Arabic, and people obviously don't know the language. So
Right.
whatever someone tells them, they believe that. Same thing with Christianity. People go out and use the word the way they want to. There was someone who was giving a sermon or something on one particular part of the Bible, and he was using some word. And then I was quickly looking at that in the on the internet. Somewhere else, that word is, I mean, that it's a different word in that particular verse. So man, one word can change everything.
Right.
So
That's true.
yeah, so
That's
now it's a
very true. What the injunctions are there in the holy books, whichever religion a person follows, but then each person has a different perspective. What that person is putting forth before the people, that's his own understanding. That's his own perception of how he has understood those injunctions. Now, if I do not research my work, my holy book, then I'm bound to follow those perceptions which have been fed to me. They may be right, they may be wrong. That's why these clashes, this conflict in the society takes place, because we do not, as such, research what is there, what is meant for us.
so
That's the
imagine
problem, basically.
imagine we are lawyers and we see that we have one constitution, we have some laws, even those laws, to interpret them for years,
For years,
judgments and judgments are coming out. Supreme
different
goes.
judges approach differently.
I mean, imagine this is so new. I mean, religion and Islam and Quran are so old. So the interpretations kept coming up in every religion.
They
I think
keep coming up. See, in the classic age, in the pre-modern era, we had different kinds of interpretations. People interpreted it differently. Now, postmodern era, we have different interpretations coming from the same schools of thought that are there. So this cannot suit the situation. If
exactly.
there's an injunction that's meant to be there, it's always got to be followed that way. But the problem is how you accept that perception, how you adapt to even the changing circumstances,
I
which
think,
I
yeah.
think there's a lot of work that
Uh,
our
I, I,
religious scholars need to be doing, and especially the literate class who read these books, they need to take it to the people.
I think what we need to do, Shifan, is we have to create our own one religion of whatever, my brotherhood, peace, sisterhood, whatever you want to call it, which has some very basic things. We know those basic things. I mean, look, imagine we know what it is to be able to get along with people. Or you know who that negative energy is. You know those people and how you change them, whether they change or not. All those things are so basic. We know all that around us. So we actually may.
Definitely, then we don't have to go that far away. The basic religion is humanity. We
Exactly,
are all
exactly.
human beings. Why to go in a different direction altogether? If we just sum up those human values, they are the grand norm of our morality, of our whole
Absolutely.
societal system. Why should we deviate from that? We do deviate, and that's why things happen which are very which are not very heartwarming, which create differences in the society.
Exactly. Because I keep saying, telling people, look, I obviously in these shows and all my events, I have people from all over the world. I never felt any different. I mean, that connection is so basic. I mean, it could person could be any from anywhere in the world. You connect on a certain, like you said, that it's a human to human connection, which goes
Exactly.
beyond everything, goes beyond everything.
Exactly. That's the foundation of our existence, humanity. We were created as human beings. Then religion was given to us to follow a righteous path. We didn't have a religion when we came down. We got that religion to follow a proper way of life. And now, if we don't accept a proper way of life in a particular way, that's how conflicts come in. But the basic crux of it is humanity. You have to have those human values. That's the natural law of human beings, of
Or,
mankind.
or maybe what might have happened is because when say Islam came in at that point of time, you don't know what the circumstances in the world were in that part of the world. What were the circumstances? Maybe it was required to tell people about basic values. Maybe they'd lost basic values. We don't know because now you can't go back. That today, if supposing say what is happening in Ukraine, you see a war happening there and people get
Exactly.
dying. Now someone looks at this 50 years later
Mm.
and they say maybe there is peace on earth. Maybe let's just be optimistic, there is peace on earth. And then they look back and they say this happened on this planet. I mean, and now this is about how many hundreds of years later we are looking at religion. We don't know what the situation was. So I think we need to also understand the circumstance in which came up, and we also understand today.
The world has always been at conflict. Wars have always been there since Adam came to the earth. Wars have always been there. Differences have always been there. We have not been always tranquil. It has not been like that. But it's now we have communication. The communication travels faster than we even think. Before
Yeah.
we think, it has reached everywhere. That's why we know about Ukraine. That's why we know about other places also, even where a small conflict takes place.
And the best part is, Shafan, good messages and bad messages, they all travel as fast.
They all travel. They
But the
do.
only problem is
But that,
the negative messages seem to be traveling a little too much around us, and the
but
positive ones.
that's propaganda. Nobody does the propaganda. The good part of it.
And that's the only sad part, that I think the what I keep saying about this whole mediator mindset and identifying people with the mediator mindset is that those voices, those reasonable people, those impartial people, they've gone into the background because they don't want to shout their views out there. So they're all there, Shifan. We have to identify them. We have to bring them forward because
If
those.
we just go into complete silence, then who will realize the right and the wrong aspect of it?
Yeah,
Nobody is
exactly.
going to tell right from the wrong, and what ought to be done and what should not be done. What is being done. If we go into a complete silence, that I would not suggest that. People who have an opinion should come forward, whether someone listens to them or not. Ultimately, the voice remains. No, at some point of time, somebody has said this. Maybe even if from 100, 3 people will start thinking about it, but they'll ultimately start thinking the
But
moment you grow.
yeah, but only thing is, I think that because for me, like for a person like me, for me, negativity, I stay away from. I just stay away from negativity, and this is like according to me, a lot of people who do some just don't like it. Now, when you want to stay away from the negativity, then either you can go into your own, like this is my bubble that I have in which I connect with people. So either you can create your own bubble, but and today technology helps us. I mean, we can
Yes,
connect with
it does
every.
definitely. It does. It helps you a lot in connecting with like-minded people
Yeah, so
and
that is about we
people
have to use.
who share your views, your ideas.
Because when you say, look, when you say that views are important, I'm saying that why engage with negativity? There is so many positive people in this world. Connect them right now. First connect them, and then over time their positivity might have some effect around you. But to say I will engage with negativity, you will by either you get negative yourself, or you'll get frustrated. So I see a lot of people. I see a lot of people who I know, even mediators, some of them. I know that, look, I mean, they have so much to give to the mediation world and the world, but they're surrounded by negativity, because obviously if they are living in a world where that is a message which keeps hitting you, and like they say on social media, that if you start reading a certain kind of thing, those messages will keep bombarding you. So if you look at one negative message, like ads also, I mean, you look at one ad, that those ads will keep coming to you. Same with negativity. So I think you just have to make sure that just stay away from it. That's the way I look at it.
Yes, absolutely. I would agree.
Well, Shafan, please, you have to tell us about yourself. Only thing is, you've come to my house, and obviously, I can't share any sharbat with you, but I can have it on your behalf.
Okay.
But this is the only problem with the online world, that it is a little rude that you're sitting here and drinking something and not being able to offer to the other person.
Well, I would look at the better part of it. The better part of it is that you are able to connect. You are able to develop that connectivity, which otherwise was not possible. I would never have met you. I would never have been able to know your thoughts. I would never have been able to participate in your conferences if they had been offline, maybe because of different constraints. This allows you, that gives space, this creates that space.
But I think, Shafan, right now you said I would have never been able to meet you, or I would not have met you.
Yes.
So now you understand, this is meeting now. This is meeting. This is it. This is the way people are going to meet now. I hope when I come to Kashmir, you'll say, okay, let's do a video call. You could go to Dal Lake
No,
and give me a
of course
video call.
not. Of course not.
But Shifan, you have to tell us about yourself, and as
Sure,
much about yourself as possible.
sure. If I would like to talk about myself, just for everyone, I'm Shefan Jahan. I'm from Kashmir, and I'm very much honored to be here hosted in this international series of conversations. As a person, I have traversed a very long and very interesting journey. And if I now start taking a soul selfie of that journey, it needs me to open up and traverse backwards and identify my own energies that synergize and power my own thoughts. I had a very interesting childhood. I and my siblings were brought up on a very simple living. However, it was very refined and a very sophisticated environment. But with a very army kind of a discipline. We were brought up that way, very disciplined, very strict discipline. Our teachers, our schools, I got the best of the schools, education. I met many people along in this journey, people who were best in their field. Nevertheless, we were acquainted very well with the charms and adventures of the Kashmir. They were inherent in our grooming. A deep sense of morality was inculcated in us from the very childhood. That being because my mother, she was the dominant part of it. And my father also, if he dreamed, my mother put all that into action. She was the one who supported all his dreams. She was the one who brought us up and groomed us. We are what we are because of our parents and very much because of our mother. She was a teacher, she was a working lady, but because of the kids, she left her job and put all her energies and herself into grooming us, me and my siblings. We were not brought up in a very religious kind of a sense, but we were brought up in a very holistic sense. Our overall growth, development, our overall grooming was very holistic, not just that that orthodox religious type. Though we were very believing people, we were very religious people, but that did not tell upon our grooming, that did not become a dominant factor upon our grooming. We grew up in a pluralist community where we had the Sikhs, the Hindus, the Christians, all participating in the community affairs. Our school, I was in a co-ed school. There also we had people from all the communities, students from all the communities, the Sikhs, the Hindus, the Muslims, everyone together. So we shared that those pluralistic values. The festivals, they were common to all of us. We enjoyed all those festivals. Therefore, our grooming was essentially on the liberal values. Empathy was emphasized. So that formed the database of our intellect and what we now use as grown-ups. My brother, on a lighter note, he still remembers Shravan Kumar's story that was taught in the school. The one who carried his parents in a bamboo basket over his shoulder to the Char Dham Yatra. That's his favorite story even now. He remembers that. So that's the kind of value system that we grew up with. Education was not just the school going and coming back from school getting marks. Education meant more than that. Education meant participating in the system, the whole system, the cosmos of life. And it was especially my mother who stressed upon all these things. For my part, if I be allowed to recount a small anecdote of childhood, of course, without exaggeration, or anyone may think self-praise. But my father, when I was even less than 10, my father he would polish our shoes, his own shoes and my siblings' shoes. This was his morning routine. Every day he would do that. One day he made me promise, I was watching him polish all the shoes. He made me promise, okay, tomorrow you get up early and polish your own shoes. So I was very reluctant and somehow I just forgot. I didn't, next day when I got up, I didn't polish my own shoes. He came up to me, I was going to wear my shoe. He came up to me and said, look here, a promise breaker is a shoemaker. So it just struck me, even as a tiny thought, it bothered me. I was the one who had broken this promise, but not the shoemaker. The poor fellow didn't even know that I had broken a promise with my father. I had made a commitment with my father. So why did he have to bear the guilt, bear the burden of the guilt, of my guilt? It was my fault. I did not do something that I was supposed to be doing. But how come this shoemaker came? He cannot bear the burden. No. This was there inherent in me. This somehow was there. So the next morning I got up very early. I brought out all the shoes that were there in our household. I cleaned all them, laced all them, put them all in a proper sequence, polished all my shoes, and my own shoes, I polished them so hard. Then I lined them up all on the veranda and went up to my father. He just smiled. He didn't say much. He smiled. I went up to my mother. She always believed in miracles. She was that kind of an angelic presence in our life. She is that kind of a presence. She told me, no, now the good spirits are going to reward you for it, for this thought. So that's a habit that's still there, not just of polishing my own shoe, but the habit of introspection, to look into myself, to look inwards. If there is something that I should be doing, whether I have done it properly, what I ought to be doing, have I done it properly or not? That sense is still there. That sense of introspection became inherent, not just in me, my siblings also. My mind and soul journey is so full of these anecdotes that my whole childhood is a very interesting journey. And that's how I was made.
Nice. Yeah. You're continuing. Yeah.
Then I chose advocacy to express myself. It's quite an adventure. Yourself being an advocate, you know that one who gets into the profession becomes addicted to it because it's basically a journey of the soul. It's an adventure of the soul. I experimented with law and learning at the same time in the field. This part of my journey from being a student to becoming a student for life, I would describe it as, again, a very incredible experience. En route, I got to express myself, the traits that I had imbibed, the education that I had received, and the outcome that I had sought, a sense of soul fulfillment. The best part of advocacy is that you are always intellectually involved, and there's the camaraderie, and that's hidden under the black robes of professional rivalry. It's intellectual rivalry, and I loved it. The adversarial part of advocacy is fine, but my preference in matters is mostly for mediation, more so because my dominant trait is to be at peace with myself, is to seek peace and be in tune with it. On a practical note, definitely I'd prefer mediation because it saves on time, it's cost effective and less expensive, and it's also a socially useful tool. One can build relationships in the society. One can rectify wrongs in the society. And it's more of a societal spirit. Reaching on a consensus between two chronic adversarial and invincible claims is very much challenging. I say not less than conquering the Everest. Now, mediation, the spirituality and the soul aspect of it. If I would quote Bertrand Russell, who said that the body is in time and space, but the soul is in time only. An idea that quickly struck me, Vikram, was that this is somewhere separate, somewhere beyond time. Soul is beyond time, definitely, it's beyond time, I felt it. And in the infinite shunya of the cosmos, if you find that soul, that body that belongs to the bird, ye to nashwar hai, it will perish, but the soul has that infinite potential. In fact, a universal energy that has cosmic powers restricted within our finite body. The body, therefore, being immortal, the mind becomes, the body is mortal, but the mind becomes immortal once we realize and release this cosmic energy within ourselves. The core desire of the soul is harmony, so it craves for peace. Mediation is an idea, or perhaps a spirit embedded somewhere in the soul that makes the mind bend to create a bridge between two different versions of a story. Verily, it's no science to understand that the simplistic relief in harmony is better than the materialistic mental activity. The body attracts the materialistic aspect, but once the mind, the infinite transcends the boundaries of the body, it traverses into the metaphysical, and the stars are opened to it. Imagine the light of the heart and soul exuding through the eyes. Then, like a psychic, the mediator dwells into the minds of his subject disputants. He or she pursues their agitated arguments and experiments with the probability of a viable solution. Peace is very precious, and this thought is the spring of all the spirituality. A mediator with this mindset tries to elevate the conflict, a control situation, to one that of peace. In adversarial system, the balance of convenience tilts only on one side. But here, a mediator tries to bring an equilibrium, a balance between the two conflicting parties. The adversarial ego no more holds the fulcrum of the balance. The fulcrum is mediator's spiritual mind. The body of his decision, I'm saying decision because a mediator, when he records what he is writing for both the parties, is not a decision, but just in the verbal sense, it belongs to that body of his decision belongs to both and to each of them individually. Here you find the soul of the conflict resolved to smiles abundant. That's the spirit of harmony. And that's the goal of a mediator. Mind it isn't an ordinary job. Happy resolution is a bargain based on trust, because a mediator with conflict in his or her own mind is sure to be biased and may have a predisposed position on the dispute. Such mediators are one-sided. Such mediators and their decisions They are one-sided and they dent any progressive approach towards mediation as an ADR mechanism. Awareness programs alone cannot be successful unless mediators, by and large, cultivate this essential sense of trust among the litigants. Now let's dig a bit deeper to see what lies beneath these layers of a mediator. Allow me to exemplify my own person. Many a times, friends send me very ethical, moralistic, and very personalized messages. On a lighter note, Vikram, I would say, sometimes I wonder, am I the only one around who needs such deep reform? But then I divert myself. Okay, this is enough. I have it in me, and I'm going to absorb this. But truthfully, it's not enough. It's never enough. I need to further empty myself from this my and self, the ego, which Allama Iqbal also calls khudi. If you conquer this khudi, this ego within yourself, you become limitless. You become that infinite person, which is very much needed for a mediator's mindset. No one is perfect. We all know. And conflicts arise only out of these imperfections. So when dealing with these imperfections, the imperfections of others, I open my own void and peep inside, stirring the darkness for a bit of hope. It's the light of this hope that fills the vacuum of the people who open up to me and allow me into their thoughts. Mediation, in that sense, is very much a psychotherapy. As someone has rightly said, if we are peaceful, everyone in our family, our entire society will benefit from our peace. The emotions and the intellect that make us is how we know ourselves. But knowing thyself is a deeper craving. Once we are able to understand and awaken that self, we find ourselves in a spiritual nirvana. And we reap peace. Mindful, but not a detached, but conscious person. Conscious of the bitter and the sweet of life. A person who drinks from this fountain of abundance like Rumi opens up. And his power springs from this thought, this fountain of the bitter and sweet of life, which he drinks with deeper emotions. To put people at peace, you need this power. You need to connect at an emotional level, a spiritual level, and even a professional level. Therefore, when we concentrate all our efforts, all our attention on hearing and focus on both the sides to understand and arrive at a conscious settlement. Having tremendous patience, it would not be an exaggeration if I would say a mediator requires tremendous patience to hear both the sides and to pacify both the sides. It is this connect between what we perceive in the people, what we hear from them, and how these currents remove the doubts and technical difficulties to deliver peace and pertinently healing to the parties. Mediation is all about healing. When we go to arbitration, arbitration is not healing. When we go to an adversarial system of in the courts, that's not healing. It's the ego there. Abhi tumhe dekh lunga court mein. When you go in mediation, that factor gets removed from there. So the basic process is one that of healing, the healing of both the egos, healing of that hurt, which is in both the parties. A mediator's, therefore, spiritual quotient, as they say it, or in plain words, his or her spiritual intelligence should be awake so as to be creative and think out of the box solutions. An agile mind with an ability to alter a situation and deal with ambiguity. Spiritual intelligence. What is now spiritual intelligence? The spiritual quotient. Everyone, man was born with intelligence. Some may use their mind too much. Some may use their mind like me, a little bit of it. But then what is spiritual intelligence? It's that awareness beyond self, awareness of the existence of the other and the others, those who surround you. That's spiritual intelligence. And mediation, therefore, has to be therapeutic to be appealing. Mediator may not necessarily be a philosopher. No, we can't expect a philosopher to sit there in the mediation. People will run away listening to his philosophy. He may have a philosophy of his own. He or she may be analytical to evaluate so as to facilitate and transform a problem into a solution. A mediator should have the ability to use insights from personal conflicts to diagnose and resolve a situation. Many a times, people with deep experiences of life, they don't share it with anybody. But then when they go into mediation or when they go into social interaction, their method of dealing with the people is so elevated that conflicts are resolved. People come to them, people tell them their tales and stories. That's because of their own ability to hear, ability to listen, and ability to come to a diagnosis of the problem based on their own life experiences. And that's a very rich experience. Such a mediator is most often very successful. Those who don't put their problems, I'd say those who put proper perspective of their problems, deal with that problem in a very positivistic way. A problem is the kinetics of the problem. They churn from the kinetics of the problem a potential and a viable solution, which is appealing to both the parties, which satisfies both the parties, the egos of both the parties, that to say. And it's very much useful in family matters, especially when we go in mediation with the family matters. It's a very, very useful tool there. Based on your personal experiences, how you see people interacting in families, how your value system, what your value system is within your own family, you transmit that further. The better it is, the better your value system is, the better you have imbibed. Everyone has a value system. It's not that nobody has got a value system. All of us are groomed on value systems. But how you have imbibed, how you have received that value system, how you are putting out that value system. Now it's not just input, now it's the output of a person that is to be seen. That output, that values, the values that are now ingrained in you, how you are putting that forth in the form of a solution is a mediator's mindset. There cannot be, therefore, a set formula for a solution, but built by experience into a skill and stimulated by the spiritual nirvana can work wonders and provide mastery over difficulties in a situation. Now, caution, none of the two parties can arrive at peace unless they realize their grievance has been redressed enough. And contradictions, most of them contradictions, not all the contradictions can be settled. That's not humanly possible. But most of them, those what we in a very layman's parlance would call mota-moti contradictions, they have been settled. So there's no sacred justice in the worldly processes, but one can call it a meaningful justice, which only a mediator can deliver, not a judge, because he goes mostly by the technicalities. A judge cannot bend the rules, but a mediator can bend the rules. He has no set of rules that you are supposed to be doing this and there's nothing beyond this that you have to do. A mediator can bend those rules and carry it forward. Now, not in the Solomon's wisdom, but through acceptable prudence. The spiritual connect orients the mediation in a direction of justice. And that's why it's more appealing. Many authors have even written, and many mediators even speak of this symbiotic relationship. In fact, a relationship where the parties grow and evolve in a mediation. A mediator with his own mindset transfers this thought to the disputing parties, and then they evolve to a situation. They grow for that situation. They grow and make a solution possible. A mediator restores the trust deficit between the parties without passing any personal judgment, however great the temptation may be for him or her. In fact, by thinking through the whole process together, the conflict transits from an egoistic phase to that of a reconciliation. That's the crux of mediation. It's not a compromise, but it's a reconciliation between two disputing parties. Dialogue building is also effective in community conflicts. When you go and see the conflicts in the society, dialogue is a very, very important aspect of it, the communication and dialogue. It's essential for peace building. And besides, it's the non-violent means of societal well-being. Listening is the core of healing. A hurt party starts believing you as a mediator only when they feel that they are being heard. Not just heard, they are being heard with compassion, with empathy. They have that equal a person who sits on an equal footing with them, who acknowledges the hurting. Only then that such a listening can have an effect. Only then a person will open up. They unravel their story before such a meeting. Sense of survival is intrinsic to human existence, and mediation espouses the value system. And above all, as I would again reiterate, above all, empathy to survive and coexist and to reflect and then to react. Once we reflect and then react, was the half of the conflict will go away. I would say 80% of the conflict would be resolved. If we would look back, know what happened, then we would react to it. As they say, look before you leap. Concluding my conversation, Vikram Bhai, I would like to say that conflicts, they exist in every society. For centuries, in different cultures, in different ways, they have adopted to such conflicts. And even at grassroots levels, we had mediators, like we have gram punches here, we have the qazis, and even faith healers. They are also supposed to be mediators, mediating between the parties, giving them that spiritual strength to deal with the situation. But the landscape of conflict is very complex. Some are rooted in the mind, some are rooted in the heart, some are embedded in the soul. The approach of mediator is to work on all the three aspects, change the behaviors, and so as to manifest harmony. Last but not the least words, cultures may vary, religions may be different, but spirituality guides us towards a human path. When we started this conversation, I was telling you about this. This is the real spirit of human charity, where you don't bother about your own personal thoughts, but you are guided by one principle, one principle, that's human nature. Human nature exists in harmony. Human nature is to crave for harmony. This is, if we do a manthan of our human experiences, it brings up spirituality in a person. No rituals are needed. No beliefs are needed. Just the sense of right and wrong. The karma then materializes into moksha, the release from the worldly bondage. And we find what we would say, what our sages have always said, we'll find your param astitva. Param astitva, the supreme existence that comes in sync with the Creator. Once we find that level, we reach that level of mediation, we reach that level of awakening, which is most required for peace in the world. That's why they call us ambassadors of peace, all the mediators. With that, Vikram Bhai, I would wish you all the best for all your future conversations, and keep in loop all these conversations of yours, which are really enlightening to hear all the mediators world over. It's really an unliving experience. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you, Shefan. Very good thoughts, nice thoughts. But my only thing, we'll have to just clarify that the mediator does not take a decision. Parties settle their disputes on
Definitely,
their own. Yeah, because you would, because
definitely, a
just
mediator does not take the decision for them, but
well,
arrives at a settlement between the two
yeah, yeah.
parties.
But I just
It's
keep
a
saying,
consensus between the two
yeah,
parties.
parties reach their own settlement at their own the
Parties
way
reach
they
their
do.
own settlement. He or she merely facilitates that
Exactly,
settlement.
exactly, exactly. So, but you haven't told us about your siblings. How old are they? Are they younger, older?
They're younger. I'm the oldest one. I'm married. My brother is also, he's an engineer. All of us studied outside. We are from different fields. My mother was very keen on this aspect of our education, that we should all take up what we wanted to be, what we thought we were best at. When I took up advocacy, it was like, oh, हमारी family में तो कोई advocate है नहीं, all kinds of professionals, but no advocate. So I decided to go for it. Advocacy was for me, like, I want to assert myself. I had many things on mind at that point of time. By the grace of God, I did quite well, though when I was in the class, I would hardly speak anything. Most of the time, spend my be in the library. But I think I did a satisfying job, and still at it, still learning, unlearning. It's a complete process. My brother is an engineer. He's done his MBA. He's a globetrotter. Now he's set up his business. He's back in Kashmir. Otherwise, he was in States, from Saudi to States. He has been on his own. My other sister, she has done her master's in computers. The youngest one, she was in MET, Delhi. She has also finished her studies there. She has done her master's in fine arts. That's her subject. All of us are from different fields.
But what is your
She's
brother
back.
doing now in Kashmir?
My
What did
brother,
he set up?
he's set up his business of two-wheelers. He has those bikes, Austrian bikes, KTM, Kawasaki.
Okay.
He set that up here. But things have not been so good in Kashmir. It's all been so uncertain. Hope things become better. Hope we have peace, and we are able to overcome all those terrible years of turbulence.
But we'll have peace, Shefan. When your peace builder, you have to tell us about your peace builders. What activities the peace builder is doing?
Peace building.
That what is this?
My
What is
peace
it called?
builder group.
Spark peace builder. Spark peace
Yeah,
builder.
exactly. My Spark group. The concept was always there at the back of my mind. I wanted to do it when I joined advocacy. This is something that drew me to advocacy. I was associated with International Red Cross Society for some time, and it was one of their top brass officers who actually persuaded me to go for law. I had that thing in mind, okay, now I'm going to join some international organization or do whatever kinds. But this is something, this public spirited work, this always enchanted me. I keep writing also in local newspapers. We do seminars, workshops also. Then we formed a group. I named it, in fact, it was my brother who named it, gave it the name Spark. He suggested this name for it, my brother. We went ahead. Now we are a registered organization. So the first thing that we did was start a movement against drug abuse. It's very rampant now in Kashmir. It's become an epidemic. For Ramadan, we had this break. We took a very long break. In fact, I didn't want to take it, but then Ramadan was there. And besides, we had some legal formalities also regarding the organization itself. Now that's over, so we hope to start the work again and connect with people who really want to build peace. Peace building is not just the out of conflict. Even within conflict, we have to see the developmental work, the societal aspect of it, how you are building your society, and what kind of measures are you taking to the people you are giving to the people to deviate from this violence. We are doing some work on that. So it's very difficult path, but not impossible. That's what I believe in. We'll be doing it, inshallah.
But Spark has to identify those with the mediator mindset. That is my focus, and you are going to help me in Kashmir. Please identify those people in your villages, in your towns, everywhere. We need those people. Let's get them forward, and then we'll work with them, skill development, whatever we need to do, we'll do all that. So
Yeah,
is
in future, definitely I'll have a chart out that whole process, how we are going to do it, and what
it's
actually.
simple
Yes, we
process, nothing, just one message out, that even a WhatsApp message goes out as viral. Do you know anyone who helps people resolve their disputes? Whom do
there
people
are
trust
so.
in your family, community to help them resolve the dispute? Just one question, Stefan, please send it out. Let's see what replies we get.
But yes, definitely I would be doing that. Who wants? I have some people in the group. You're also a part of that group. So building it, but very cautiously, because ours is a zone where you have to try it very cautiously. I don't want to get embroiled in the politics of it, of the
Yeah,
situation. I'm interested in social work. I'm interested in building a society. I'm interested in giving hope to the society, and that's where my boundary stops. I don't want to get into the political aspect of it, and then everyone will start coming. I don't want that. So I'm treading a little bit cautiously, but definitely we are moving ahead. We are moving,
because I'm telling
taking every
you,
step in forward direction.
yeah, you have to get good people together. And I'm telling you, those people with the mediator mindset who are out there, get them together. You'll see there'll be such nice people to interact with. They'll have good thoughts. They won't be
Definitely,
negative.
there are such people existing out there, and that's how the world exists. Otherwise, if we look at the negative aspect of it, one would feel very depressed. One would not even go ahead. One would just like to sit back in the couch and do anything but go out in the world, face the reality. That's very negative. But there are those people who really make the world very beautiful.
Absolutely.
That's how the world exists. It's had it not been for them, we would all have been living with a very negative mindset. It's their positivity. They spread their positivity. However few they are, it's their positivity that's dominant over the negativity. It's their light that shines into the darkness of the
Exactly.
world.
So that's the spark you have. Is that the spark?
Yeah, that's the spark. I have even put even in our logo. We mentioned it. It's mentioned. Shine your light, shine your spark. The spark is here embedded in you, in your soul. Bring it out. That's our motto. That's our even our logo. That's how spark will function. Bring out that spark in everyone, so that we are able to light up the darkness with every bit of hope in
Absolutely.
every individual.
Absolutely. That's the way it has to be. But otherwise, I mean, the larger plan is to look at each aspect of societal problems. So, like you said, drug
Yes.
abuse was one thing, but why is it such a problem there?
Well, it is a problem and we acknowledge it. There are
But
numerous factors with this problem, why we have this over the past 30 years. Many societal problems have built in this society. With this, our Kashmiri society was very distinct. We have a very distinct culture. People don't like us mentioning that we have a distinct culture because of certain biases, but we were a distinct culture. Within surrounded by the mountains, we lived in a very different world altogether. But there are problems have come in over these past 30 years where people may have, I guess, we completely ignored this social aspect uh, because of the politics in the valley. We did to a certain extent. It got ignored, and in conflict zones, such things are bound to happen. Many evils come in the society. The society, corruption comes in, drug abuse comes in, exploitation is there. Such things do happen in conflict societies. Now we are at a stage where we have got to work. There are many people in the field. I'm not the only one. There are many people who are really doing good out there. I just joined the big league, my small person. We intend to do work in that direction.
Because the Punjab are things better in Punjab now, because Punjab also was facing a big problem on drug abuse.
Same thing happened in Punjab also. Punjab was even worse than Kashmir. What we see Punjab now is just the outcome of that past. That many people, I have many friends in Punjab who speak very bad about that era, that period when they too had that conflict situation, and how it developed, and how now what they are faced with right now is just the outcome of that situation. It became rampant. It's even worse in Punjab than in Kashmir. See, there at one level, we have to see that the government also fails when they have to deal with conflict. They have to deal with people who are in the conflict. This aspect gets somewhat ignored. I hope they do better work in this field as they have been doing. I have been seeing in the past year or two that there are crackdowns. There are whole localities that had the agricultural land which was converted into for growing poppy and that kind of stuff. So those fields were destroyed. I hope that good work continues, and they catch the big fish actually, not just the small little fish who are merely pawns in the whole scenario. They do catch the big fish so that others get deterred from entering the trade. It's especially, I'm very concerned because it's our youth who are indulging in it, and not very, very young children, even below 13 years of age, who have fallen prey to this drug menace. It's very close to my heart, something that I really want to work for, but there are other aspects also that we are working simultaneously.
Definitely, but there's so much money involved that there are
Too
so
much
many.
money, and
Too
there's
much.
a lot of risk. People don't want to talk about it also. I was in a workshop. I went there and talked. Those people called me to their visit locality. Then they told me about all these issues. That if you were to talk to one person, you don't know how that message would be carried forward and who he would be meeting. So people are a bit scared also. They are scared for their own security. Then I go and tell them, see, I'm a female. I also have those security issues. If you don't give me your security, how can I provide you my security from my side? We are into it together for each other. We are into it for ourselves. We don't have to seek security just because we are afraid. Stop being afraid and go for it. That's what I'm building a community, a movement at the community level where people are very much affected in particular localities.
Because I'm saying, look, the root of the problem starts with the fact that money is important in society. And if money is
Yes,
important,
exactly.
people will find ways, whatever way they will find to earn that money. So I think root of the problem is there, Shefan. We have to hit that part. We have
Yes,
to.
exactly. This we have become very, very materialistic, and we want all of us want comfortable lives. We don't want to struggle, and well, that life. What's life without struggle? That this basic idea, people don't subscribe to this idea much now, especially the new generation. They want to make easy money whatever way it comes to them. They want to become rich overnight. They don't want to struggle for it. They want a comfortable life, and because of the social media also, this
That's
menace has
that's
got up.
that's the biggest. I think that's what we, because that's why I keep saying that you can't blame anyone. People talk about lawyers, or that
So there
profession,
are
the way it's
collective
gone.
problems.
No, I'm saying that because everyone's part of this ecosystem, and that ecosystem has been created by all of us. I mean, all of us. If anyone is responsible, all of us are responsible. So, like the children now, well, like you said, social media is exposing them to so much that that's a
Exactly.
whole
It is.
generation which has grown up on, now so and so is traveling there, so they put those photographs, so now they have to travel there. They're
Mhm.
partying there, so they have to party there. So to blame them, I mean, you can't even blame them, because that's the exposure that they're getting. And if they're seeing something, you want it. And if you don't get it, frustration comes in. So you find ways to get it. So all that is so linked. So finally, Shafan, we have to make sure, we have to tell people, please, your basics, you just need basics in life. All this, I was telling someone, look, the day if we're talking about war in Ukraine, okay, so I said, where does it all come from? There is a arms industry which is so big
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
they're making so much money now. Why
Yeah.
are they making money? They want, because like I said, money is important in society. It brings you power, it brings a lot of things with it. So I was telling him,
Exactly.
the day you are changing your car, you want a bigger car, that's the day you already got into that cycle. Those clothes that you are buying, you want to buy those clothes that are okay, I now to change my clothes, or whatever it could be, mobile phones, watches, shoes, anything. I mean, let's not anything. The moment you start looking at one thing, you've gone into that race. So to blame again, I said, how do you blame anyone? How do you blame the person who runs those companies which sell
There's
arms?
even, there's even a research paper, I guess, on this, how the arms dealers are benefiting from the war in Ukraine, whether it was Ukraine, whether it was Syria, whether it was Yemen, whether it was Iraq. All these weapon manufacturers benefited. And it's
Obviously,
the common man, those who live in these areas, they suffer.
exactly.
That's the irony of it. That's the tragedy of it.
And that's what the
So
whole
war,
concept of, yeah, that's the whole concept of money. That's the way. I mean, like I said, the root of the problem will start there. I mean, imagine you have countries, you have the US, the way everyone talks, developed country and everything. If they're on the road, if someone is sitting there, doesn't have a house and is living on the road, and you are here talking about billions and trillions of dollars being spent on the arms industry, can you imagine the kind of situation that you are creating? So the whole value system then revolves around it. I mean, it's a big discussion to have. Where do we change ourselves? So it has to start with, I think, with us
the,
somewhere.
I guess the whole value system will function only when you are able to survive. Only then you can talk about values. A person who hasn't had anything to eat, who doesn't have anything to feed to his children, he has to manage that food for his children. He may do it by begging. That means he has to forego his self-respect, or he may do it by stealing, or he may do it by murdering someone.
Or
That
by
means
selling
again
drugs,
he is
or by
indulging in
or by
crimes.
selling drugs also, or by selling
Yeah, or
drugs.
exactly,
Mhm.
or by selling drugs. You may do it anything, go to any extent. And
That's what I'm saying.
if
Yeah.
basically it's we have foregone all those values. We no more want to live a very simple life. We do not enjoy those simple pleasures which we call, though it's like this small happinesses, small joys, trifles that made our lives happy. We seek bigger things, the luxuries, and that's why how we find ourselves happy, however short-lived that they might be.
Mhm.
Sophistication doesn't mean that you have to have big cars, you have to have branded clothes, branded things, but you have to have these little happinesses in your life, the small joys that will come together, that will mean that meaningful life should be there.
But Shafan, we need good broadband connectivity for sure. That we need. But we have to
Sure.
have that all over the world. We need that because the connecting of
Especially
people.
in my part, especially in my part, I really do need a good connection. There
Everywhere.
is
Yeah, yeah.
some
Yeah,
there is some issue here, even though we have all companies here, but every company has this issue because we are surrounded by mountains here, these walnut trees. It's all like that here. So there is this issue.
because the
But
thing is
I
that,
hope that I'm
yeah.
able to resolve it
No, but the main
further.
important thing is that because I'm looking at like mediation also, everything should be done online. You have a global pool of good people who can help anyone anywhere. So for connectivity, definitely we need to. That is something which should become a basic right of people.
It is, but we didn't get this basic right.
Mhm.
In Kashmir, we were barred from this basic right in 2019, and before that also it gets snapped. Our um, this speed of internet is mostly 2G, while the phone shows it's 5G speed. It moves in a 2G on a 2G speed. So that those issues are here,
Things are
but
getting
we
better,
somehow manage and survive.
but they're getting better now. Things are
Yes, it
getting
will
better.
get. It has to get better. It has to get better. The companies, they take their money, but the problem remains the same. अभी कुछ होगा तो फिर हमारी connectivity will be snapped. We live with the business community suffers, the students suffer, everyone suffers because everything is now online. You have online shopping also, from getting the smallest, even your coffee online to studying online. It's all
What I'm saying.
based on internet. So internet in Supreme Court said it's a basic right now.
Yeah, exactly. Connecting. No, but the thing is that of course, hilly areas, laying the cables, because finally, when you lay those optical fiber cables, that's when actually the connectivity becomes really good. So I think that work must be happening. I'm sure it's happening.
Yes, it's happening. It's not like we don't live in those remote. It's not a remote area, remote hilly area. Those areas also have good connectivity. It's just the competition between these companies. Some may put their tower up somewhere where you have more, the people have more accessibility. So
it's
it's like
it's a
there's a lot
commercial
of competition.
the commercial decision. They will rather put infrastructure where they can get more subscribers.
Yes, exactly.
But there was some interesting. There was very lots of years back. There was in Uttarakhand. Someone was saying they've created this whole network of towers. I mean, it's not really not the mobile companies doing it. People were setting it up themselves, so they were
Yes, it
able
does
to.
happen. At some places, you have towers of all the companies in just one place, not even much far away from each other. The towers are there. That overlaps the signal. That's also a problem. So you don't get a good signal. Only Airtel, I think, has the best signal. Jio is a little bit erratic. BSNL, you have to have a BSNL connection in Kashmir. Nothing doing without a BSNL connection, because that's the government agency that, yes, that's okay. That's moves. You have to have a BSNL connection, because if Airtel will stop because they're private parties, BSNL will not go anywhere. You have your landline, you have your broadband there.
But otherwise, is BSNL still operating in other parts of the world, country?
I think it's operating in Kashmir
only. Must be.
Other parts it's not so good, not so viable. But other parts, Airtel is good. Jio is making a lot of money, lot of people, many subscribers they have. They even had a Jio University. I don't remember where is it. You may know. Anyways, things happen in too fast. Okay, Vikram, I think I shall leave now. Your meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shefan.
It's a pleasure to be talking to you.
See you soon. See you soon. Conference. We will fix up your time and.
Sure, I'll let you know. I'll sure let you know. Thank you so much.
All right. See you. See you. Bye.
Thank you.